Hey guys, so it's that time of year where rodents, mice, and rats are all trying to make their way inside. Food sources, natural food sources from the outdoors have all dried up and they're looking to come inside and looking for a new food source. So if you have cats, dogs, or any other type of animals, you have to have a food source for them. And those rodents and rats and mice are all coming inside looking for that same food source, and they have a very good sense of smell. So I'm going to show you how to make a very simple bait station out of 4 common kitchen items that are going to take care of these rodents, and it will work every time and it will work perfectly. Now the reason I have all these different size plastic containers and these styrofoam containers is all depending on what type of rodent you're seeing. I've got some small field mice. They're not very large, but if you're dealing with something like large rats, you may want to size up to something like a styrofoam cooler. They're really cheap. You can get them at almost every grocery store, and it has the same exact principle to these smaller plastic containers. I'm going to demonstrate how they work. So you just need a drill. You can either use a drill or you can manually do this with a box cutter. The drill makes it 10 times easier and it looks a lot cleaner. So we're going to move these aside and I'm going to show you exactly how to put together these smaller size bait stations so you won't have to overpay for one online. You can buy these. I'll put a link to the description, but they're a lot cheaper if you make them yourself. Now I really like this particular size container, and it comes with a lid that's completely see-through, and that's really important. We want to be able to look into the container and see if the bait has been used up, and if it has, we can easily replace it. These snap type lids that go on there, we don't have to worry about an animal getting into it. It makes it much more secure. So if you put these outdoors, you don't have to worry about a dog getting into it or some type of raccoon, possum, whatever you've got. So we're going to start by using this exact size. What I've got here is a hole saw. We're going to put that in the side of it close to the bottom. So we just want to make sure that we base the hole on the size of the rodent we know we have. If you need something a little bit larger, you can get these in a lot of different sizes. Obviously, hole saws can be ordered really cheaply online, so I'll put a link to a variety of sizes down below. But I'm dealing with something that's pretty small, so I'm going to start by putting the hole right there in the side of our plastic container. Now I've cut our hole in the side a little bit higher than I wanted it. I wanted it to be a little bit closer to the base, but then I got to thinking about it. If we're going to put this outside and if there's some rain event that happens, being up a little bit higher will prevent our bait from becoming waterlogged. So maybe this is a better idea, having it a little bit higher off the ground, since this is going to be an outdoor trap or bait station. So just remember, depending on where you're putting it, if you're putting it inside, you don't have to worry so much about rain getting into it. So like a garage or something like that, you could have it right at the base. Remember, you want it at least a 1/4 inch off the top because you can damage it. I've done a little bit of damage here because my hole saw, the drill part of it is a little bit dull, so it would be a lot neater if I had a brand new hole saw. Now the next component, I'm going to use just a regular mason jar, but I'm not going to have it like this where the opening of the mason jar is facing the opening of our plastic container. We're going to flip our mason jar and put it around that, so any rodents that make their way in will have to go around the outside of the mason jar. Any animals, raccoons, dogs, cats that stick their hand in there, they won't be able to pull this. They can pull it closer, but they will not be able to get to the bait. It can move around, but as I said earlier, I don't want any pets getting into this. It's not toxic. Could give them an upset stomach, but that's about all. But I want to make sure that the bait remains intact for the entire winter so I can get rid of these small field mice that are starting to invade the greenhouse. Now the first component of our bait here is just Jiffy cornmeal mix. You can find this at the dollar stores. You can find it at Walmart. We want to use about 1 cup of our cornmeal mix, and this is like a magnet for rodents. They really love this product. So we're going to put this about 1 cup into our container, and so we're right there at 1 cup. And this will not harm mice, but it acts as our attractant. Now we're going to add something to it that will kill mice, but is safe around your other animals, whether you have a farm, pets, or whatever it is. You don't have to worry about this harming them or the next product we're going to be adding to it. So we're going to pour that into our mixing container. And the next thing we're using is the product that will cause the mice or rodents to die, and that is baking soda. They will not be able to expel the gases that build up in their stomachs. So we're going to mix these two together. And the reason we want to mix that with the cornmeal is, one, because of the taste. It disguises the bitter taste of the baking soda. So we're going to mix those two together, and we're going to add a couple of more things after we get this well mixed. But we want to make sure that it's extremely well mixed, so just put your lid on it and shake it for a good 2 to 3 minutes so you can get it really mixed well. Keep it in this container so when you go to refill your mason jars, you'll have this ready to go. It only takes a few tablespoons in our mason jar to attract the mice, so just mix this really well. Take a good minute or two and mix it up before we add in our next 2 ingredients. Now our baking soda is well mixed. You can see that the cornmeal has basically kind of absorbed the baking soda. They mix together so the rodents will not be able to taste it. It will not have that bitter taste of baking soda. I brush my teeth quite often with baking soda, at least twice a month, and it does have a very bitter taste. So the cornmeal mix is going to disguise that bitter taste so the rodents will eat it. But there's 2 more things we need to add to our recipe here. Now the next thing we need to add is something sweet, because depending on their feeding habits, some of the mice and rodents may want something sweet, or they may want something that has more of a protein in it. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to mix this well so it might be a little clumpy, but that sweetness in the mix here is going to attract them depending on what they're looking for. So just do a very easy mix here, back and forth. You don't have to do something too hard. You will see a little bit of clumping from the organic honey, which is what I'm using, and it will not spoil. A lot of things you have in your cabinet that have a sweetness to it might spoil. I don't really like using sugar. I want to use something that's natural, so we're just going to mix that really well before we add our last ingredient into our rodent bait. I want to show you how great that honey mixed in. You would think that it would be extremely clumpy. I need to do a little bit more breaking up on our baking soda. There's a few large pieces there, but as you can see, you can't even see the honey. It's been kind of absorbed into our dry powder here. Now the last ingredient is going to be something that if they're looking for a protein, they'll go for this bacon grease, and we're going to put 1 large tablespoon in there and do the same thing. Mix it well. If you do this by hand, it's really hard to get off your hand, so just make sure that you have on a pair of disposable gloves. Again, we're going to do the exact same thing and just mix it. The bacon grease will act as another attractant depending on what their feeding habits are. So rodents, especially rats, will go for the bacon grease. Mice and smaller field mice and things like that may go for the sweetness. So just, I would say, mixing both of those in there are going to do double duty for you. Now I like to use a paint stick to make sure everything is mixed well. Sometimes the bacon grease wants to stick to the sides there, so we can just take our paint stick and move this around and make sure that everything is properly mixed, that our baking soda is broken down into small tiny pieces, because we want to make sure that it's well mixed to make sure that it has that reaction in the rodent's digestive system. So we're not going to put all of this in our mason jar. We're going to put a very small amount, and then we're going to put that in the most likely areas where we're going to have the rodent activity. Now right now under the greenhouse there's an open void under there, and I believe that's where some of them go in the winter time, so we'll put some in there. And then if we're just going to put one of these traps in an outdoor area, you want to make sure you put it somewhere that it's up against the wall, because a lot of times mice and rodents will travel along a wall before they find a way in. So if you have any small openings like electrical openings or dryer vents, putting it close to that area would be critical so you can stop them from coming inside there. All right, so we're going to take our mason jar and we're just going to put about 3 or 4 heaping tablespoons. I'm going to try to move this out of the way so you can see a little bit better of what I'm doing. So we've covered sweetness, we've covered proteins, and we've covered odor. This will have definitely a very strong odor that will attract the mice. Just kind of put it on its side there and kind of spread it out. And then once again, remember our opening is on the end. We want to put our opening to our mason jar to the opposite side. So if any mice come inside, they're going to go around it, and any animals that stick their hand in, you'll be able to tell if the jar has been moved around, if something is messing with your jar there. So again, let me get a lid for this. And we're going to secure the top. We don't have to worry about dogs, cats, or anything else. So it's the perfect way because you can see your bait very clearly. Some of the bait stations you see, you can't see clear to them, so you have to take them apart. Some of them are not as easy, some of the professional grade ones, and it's a little bit trickier to get into them. So this way I can just take a quick glance, see what's happening, and I'll know if the bait needs to be replenished. So I'm going to put this outside my house right next to a dryer vent. I've got some others. I've got, I think, 3 of these. I'm going to put these together today, and also around the greenhouse, because I have seen one small field mice running around the greenhouse. Now I'm outside the greenhouse, and I just want to demonstrate how any animal trying to reach in there will not be able to get to it. They can't flip the jar around. It's basically going to be pushed back and forth, but it'll be extremely difficult for any larger animal. So I just want to kind of position the jar where the rodents can go in, and again, like we said, they'll go in, eat, and then exit the trap. We don't have to worry about any type of poisoning other animals. If some type of wildlife eats that rodent, we don't have to worry about that, because all we've done is we've created a gas buildup in their system. So that's not going to harm anything like wildlife, birds, hawks, eagles, whatever we have around our home. So even if a cat eats the mouse that ate this, we don't have to worry. So here we have our first trap set up. I've got 3 more of these to put out, but it's in the perfect location right where mice are going in and out from under my shed. Now, as I said in the beginning of this, I'm aiming to get rid of some small field mice, but if you need to go up to a larger size, these ceiling type lid containers go up to quite a bit larger. So if you had something like a really large rodent, you could upsize the hole saw or manually cut it with a razor blade, but you don't want to make it so large that a small cat or a very small puppy or something like that could get in there. So we wanted to make sure that we keep it, you know, to the size of maybe 3 inches. A rodent, if it can get its head through an area, it can squeeze its body through. So that's what a lot of people don't understand, is how do rodents get in your home. If they can squeeze under a door or under a windowsill, they can squeeze their body under, kind of flatten themselves out. So any type container, if you've got rats, you could go up much larger. So I hate to think of something like that being around my garage or my home, but they do occasionally happen. And so if you have that problem, just upsize it. And I would say if you're trying to go for rats, I would go with more of the bacon grease, because it'd be more of a protein, and the smell would also attract them much quicker. So just depending on what type of rodent you do have, you can upsize this as big as you need it. I'll put links in the description to these locking type lids, so you don't have to worry about even small animals somehow getting into your bait and not harming themselves, but just making quite a mess of it. Now, personally, I don't like to harm any type of wildlife, but this is something that's a little different, because once it gets into your pantry and your food storage area, even if it's in a garage where you're keeping pet food, they could contaminate your food that you're going to consume or your pets are going to consume. And if it's a diseased rodent, then you've got a whole nother issue. It could kill one of your pets just from transferring that disease through the food source or even in your pantry. So you want to get rid of these. You don't want to have them anywhere around your home. If you want to do live catch traps, which I'll put a link into the description, you could do the same type of baiting, and then you could relocate the rodents. But for me personally, I don't want to take a chance on any of my pets or wildlife that I'm taking care of around my home. I don't want them to be hurt or get a disease from these rodents. So I kind of have mixed feelings about it, and I'm sure a lot of people do. But when it comes to your pets or other family members, you don't want them to be exposed to any type of diseases from rodents. So guys, if you found this video helpful, I hope you'll leave a comment or give me a thumbs up. I really would appreciate it. And you can also tell me what method you use to take care of rodents around your home. I also have a Patreon. If you'd like to become a member of that, there's some free and paid content there as well. That would really be a great help to me, because making the channel grow is not easy sometimes. So that would really greatly be appreciated. So guys, I appreciate you watching, and have a great day.